Hello, everyone. Yesterday we talked about the law of sines. Today we're going to talk about the law of cosines. So when we have side angle side or side side side, we cannot use the law of sines. So to find the missing information, we can use the second formula for these situations. It's called the law of cosines, which is derived from the Pythagorean theorem. So what this is when I have a triangle. Again, if I call the vertices A, B, C with capital letters, the sides across from the angles are those lowercase. So then what the law of cosine says, and it works for all three sides, says that A squared is equal to the other two sides, B squared plus C squared, minus B times C, the sides, times the cosine of angle A. So what has to always happen is that the angle that I'm taking the cosine of has to be equal to the opposite side, A squared. So we can use this to find the angles, included angle to show the third side, which is the opposite angle. And if I know all three sides, I can use it to find all the angles. So let's do an example. So in triangle RST, so again, I'm going to draw a triangle. Capital R, capital S, capital T are my angles. R, which is opposite angle R, is 11. S, which is opposite angle S, is 12. And angle T is 120. So I want to find side T to the nearest integer. So since I'm looking for side T and I know the other information, I'm going to use the law of cosines, which is T squared equals, in this case, it's going to be R squared plus S squared minus 2RS cosine of T. And again, the part that's really important is if the side that is equal to it squared corresponds with the angle that I know. So in this case, it's T squared equals 12 squared plus 11 squared minus 2 times 12 times 11 times the cosine of 120. So in this case, I really am just going to take square root of both sides because that's how I get T. So in my calculator, I'm just going to type T equals the square. Well, I'm going to type square root of 12 squared plus 11 squared minus 2 times 12 times 11 times the cosine of 120. Make sure your calculator's in degrees. So do that. And then, so when I enter that in my calculator, it gets T equals 19.92485,885. So I'm going to round to the nearest integer. So that's T is 20. So now we can do another example. Here, we know that we have triangle ABC again. Across from A is 4. Across from C is 6. And we don't know the angle of B, but we know the cosine of B is 1/16. So again, if we're finding B, we're going to do B squared equals A squared plus C squared minus 2AC cosine of B. So in this case, since I know the cosine of B is 1/16, I'm just going to take out the cosine of B and make that B 1/16. So it's B squared equals 4 squared plus 6 squared minus 2 times 6 times 4 times 1/16, which is the cosine of B. So B equals the square root of 4 squared plus 6 squared minus 2 times 6 times 4 times 1/16. And again, I'm just going to do all of that on my calculator. So I'm going to pause while I do that. And that gives me B just equals 7. So this time, I'm trying to find the cosine of B. So again, I'm going to start by drawing my triangle. Across from angle A is 5. across from angle B is 7, and across from angle C is 10. So I'm trying to find the cosine of B. So since it's the cosine of B, I'm going to say B squared equals A squared plus C squared minus 2AC cosine of B. Because remember, the key thing of this formula is that whatever I'm taking the cosine of has to equal the side opposite squared. So I'm trying to find the cosine of B. So if this is what I'm trying to solve for. So I'm going to substitute my other information. So 7 squared equals 5 squared plus 10 squared minus 2 times 5 times 10 times the cosine of B. So here I can't just put stuff in my calculator. I actually have to do the algebra and solve. So 7 squared is 49, 5 squared is 25, 10 squared is 100, minus I'm going to do this multiplication. So it's 2 times 5 times 10, which is 100. And then that's times the cosine of B, which remember is my variable in this case. So I can add the 25 and the 100, but I can't subtract that 100 because that 100 is times the cosine of B. So I'm going to subtract 125 from both sides. And I get negative 76. And I'm running out of room here. So negative 76 equals negative 100 cosine of B. To find out what the cosine of B equals, I divide both sides by negative 100. And then I can simplify that fraction, 76 over 100. Which those can both be divided by 4. And it's a negative over a negative, so it's 19 over 25 equals the cosine of B, which that is my answer then. They wanted the cosine of B, so that's 19 over 25. Okay, so I got two more examples for you. So in isosceles triangle, red, RE equals ED, and they both equal 5. So let's see here. RED, and these both equal 5. RD equals 8. Find the measure of the vertex angle E. Okay, so I'm looking for E. So that means what I'm going to have opposite is 8 because I want to do the cosine of E. So what I want you to do is I want you to pause and I want you to find out what the cosine of E equals. So hopefully you paused and you did the 8 squared equals 5 squared plus 5 squared minus 2 times 5 times 5 times the cosine of E. And then when we simplify that, 64 plus 50 minus 50 cosine of E. Subtract 50. And we get 14 equals negative 50 cosine of E. And then 14 over negative 50 equals the cosine of E. Okay, so now we need to remember from our previous unit, if we knew the cosine of E, how do we find the angle E? So to find the angle E, we do the inverse cosine of 14 over negative 50. And you're going to type that on your calculator, and then E to the nearest degree is 106 degrees. It's 106.26. So that's 106 degrees. So now I want you to pause and I want you to try number 5 and come back and check. Okay, so first thing I did is I drew my triangle. I'm looking for angle W, which I labeled X. So since I'm looking for angle W, I started off with 29 squared equals because I always want to do the side opposite the angle I'm looking for. So it's 29 squared equals 12 squared plus 25 squared minus 2 times 12 times 25 cosine of x. So then I squared all my terms and I multiplied 2 times 12 times 25. I can add 144 and 625 together, but I cannot subtract the 600 because that's 600 times the cosine of x. So now to finish solving this, I subtract 769 from both sides, which gives me 72 equals negative 600 cosine of x. That negative 600 is times the cosine of x, so I need to divide both sides by negative 600. So I get the cosine of x equals negative 72 over 600. Now to find x, I do the inverse cosine of negative 72 over 600, because again, to find the angle, I always do the inverse cosine. I do that on my calculator, and I find out that x equals 96.8921, and they want it to the nearest tenth, so that's 96.9 degrees.